Travis Bull Johnson. I'm running for Congress against Michelle Fischbach.
There's no money in ending war. There's no money in limiting government. To me, part of what makes America great are our small businesses, our small farms, and that's what's getting squeezed out by the establishment politicians.
That's why I say, raise cattle and not taxes. And my name's Travis Bull Johnson.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? We'll give a few more minutes here for people to show up, and then we'll start talking about what's going on with the new party. So, as most of you can somebody go ahead and make a comment so I can make sure I can see it on my end? Anybody help me out with a comment so I can make sure that that's coming in all right. All right, while waiting on that, let's go ahead and get started and talking about the Constitutional Republic Party. So far, what we've done is we've started laying a lot of the groundwork. But when I say laying the groundwork, I mean we have filed for that name with the Secretary of State. We have actually applied. Hey, good to see Jeremy. Good, our comments are working. We, as I said, we have filed with the state for that name. We have actually applied to the United States Trademark Office for a trademark on that name for the party as well. That is something that's not normally done for political parties. The only other political party that I know of that has done that is the Libertarian Party. Why did we do it? Well, we've seen what's happened with other third parties in the state where outside forces have run candidates under those parties with the specific goal of taking votes away from other parties without actually trying to advance that party. Well, by trademarking our name, we can now send a cease and desist letter to somebody trying to do that and say, hey, we don't give you permission to use our name. It's our trademark. At which point they would have to stop campaigning under our banner. And that's going to help us protect the brand. I mean, that is something that's going to be very important for us long term, is to protect the brand, because what happens to a lot of third parties is outside forces come and take over those third parties and basically ruin the brand. And these are often operatives from the major two parties who don't want the competition. So that's why we filed for that with the trademark office. I called and spoke to the Minnesota campaign finance people today. As of right now, we're not going to have to file anything with them, simply because, according to them, we are not a political party until we qualify for party status with results from a statewide election. We're only a committee. So as long as we are not directly financing or supporting state candidates, then we don't have to file anything on their end. We'll be filing with the FEC in the next couple days. We haven't done it yet because one of the things you have to file with the FEC is a treasurer and a bank account. We did have somebody today step up to be our treasurer. So we'll be opening the bank account tomorrow, at which point we'll open up with the FEC. And then so far as the FEC is going to be concerned, we'll be a local party. We are not considered a national party with the FEC until we have chapters or affiliates in more than one state. And that is the long-term goal. Our long-term goal is to take this party and build it into something much bigger, similar to threaten both the two-party system. I mean, that's where we're trying to go with this. So that's kind of where we're at on that level. Is that's moving forward. Our next big goal, and to be honest with you, our biggest goal coming up is we're going to be looking for a Senate candidate. If you read my post earlier today, or heard me mention about what it takes for the state to recognize you as a party, is you need to run a candidate on a statewide office, and to qualify as a minor party, you need at least 1% of the vote to vote for that candidate. For a major party, you will need at least 5% to make it that major party status. What's the difference? Well, if you're a major party, now your party automatically has access to the ballot. You don't have to collect signatures. You go to your filing office, pay your filing fee, and you're on the ballot under that party. That's what happened to me this last election. I was originally trying to go under as an independent or a minor party, which left me with a 1,000 signature requirement. When I did not make that, Legalize Marijuana Now, which is a major party in Minnesota, said, "Hey, we got a free slot. No signatures required. You can have it." Now, Legalized Marijuana Party this last election did not get 5%. So, and neither did Legalize the Grassroots Cannabis Party, who was the other major party in Minnesota. Grassroots Cannabis lost their majority party status. I don't even think they maintain minimum party status. Legal Marijuana Now Party has their status until the next election. Now, the catch is the next election, there is only one office that is statewide, and that's United States Senate. So any minor party or any prospective party is going to be going full blast at that election, trying to get to that magical 5% number. So there is going to be a little bit of competition there. On the flip side, this is a seat that's going to be seen as being safe from the Democrat perspective. If the Republicans could not beat Walz with everything that he's done, all the crap he's pulled, they're not gonna hold a torch up for Amy Klobuchar. I'm sorry, she's much more popular than Walz is, whether it's for right or for wrong. If you couldn't beat Walz, you're not going to beat Klobuchar on a statewide race. Meaning the GOP is just not going to throw a lot of effort into this Senate election, which is what gives us our breathing room to get in there and try to become a major party right off the bat. To do what we're trying to do, to go from nothing to a major party in Minnesota within a 2-year period, is pretty much unheard of. It doesn't generally happen. But we also don't generally have the situation that we're finding ourselves into now, where you have a major party, the GOP, basically alienating all of their grassroots support. They've done it time and time again, and they're going to keep on doing it as long as they know that the people they're chasing off have nowhere else to go. They know they're not going to go run to the Democrats, so they know they're going to still have that vote come election time. They don't need to do anything. Us coming into the game changes that. It's going to give these people some options. I had a great conversation today with somebody some of y'all may be familiar with, Phil Parrish, who ran for GOP chair this past weekend and ended up losing that election. I believe he took close to 40%. So me and Phil talked a little while today, and I'm reasonably confident that we're going to have his support as we go forward on this. There's another former congressional candidate that I've been speaking with over the last couple weeks. I'm fairly confident that in the near future, he's going to come out publicly and support us as well. And those are the kind of things the kind of support we're going to need. These are the type of candidates we're going to need to run for Senate in order to get that 5%. We're going to need somebody with some name recognition to be able to climb that hurdle. You know what, Jeremy? I mean, I know you're saying it would gain legitimacy if a current member of the MN Congress joins this party. Unfortunately, well, actually, you said the Minnesota Congress. there is some opportunities with that. And yeah, there is a reasonably decent chance the party will gain a current U.S. Congress member who before the end of the year. Now, whether they're going to still be in the party after the first, I don't, or they're still going to be in the Congress after the first, well, I don't know. But there are a couple people we're talking to who are current members who aren't real happy, and we'll wait and see what happens with that. But so our biggest focus is going to be gaining ballot access for our senatorial candidate and growing the party. That is where our focus is going to be for these next 18 months to 2 years. We are going to support as much as we can statewide state candidates, like the state house or state senate. The problem is we're going to run into is we're just not going to have a lot of funds to throw at them. But by we will support them all we can as far as trying to get people showing up when they're doing parades, when they're doing stuff like that, because it's also going to grow the party. And that's one of the big things that we're trying to do. We are going to try to have our first convention in April. We haven't set up on a location on this because, you know what, I mean, today's Tuesday. So officially, this is on day 4 of this, and we're already talking about setting up our convention. So we are moving right along. Excuse me. So at our convention, so everything we do right now, as far as our bylaws, our mission statements, our principles, working on our Constitution, none of that becomes official until it's voted on by the members of the party at the convention. Okay, until then, everything's kind of a draft. So and same with the committee we're forming right now. It's not the actual party committee; it's the organizing committee. And we are looking for a lot of multiple sources for this organizing committee. If we want to be a player in the state, we cannot do what the GOP does and avoid the city. There are people within the metro area who are conservative in the same ways that we are, physically conservative, but they're also very much leave us alone type of candidate people. And we need to bring people from the city into this organizing committee. We need to involve people from the metro from the beginning so that they know that they are represented. Same with our other areas within the state. We need to bring somebody in from the tribes, from the First Americans, okay? Because this party is about them as well as it is everybody else. We want to be represented. I'd love to get somebody from the Hmong community in here as well. Again, because we want to be able to show this is the party that's for the everyday man, the guy who is not the corporate lackey, the guy who is not the elite, the guy who's out here actually working for a living, trying to make ends meet, but the government keeps on getting in their way. The government keeps on taking a third of their money for taxes, okay? This is what we need to do. This is what the GOP has not done. And the fact that the GOP has not done it is why they haven't won a state election in a long time. Because you can't afford isolationism as far as trying to pit the rural against the urban. There are things that overlap. People who have followed me over the last couple of years, and you know I am very physically conservative. I hate spending money. So do you think there would actually be somebody who would consider themselves a democratic socialist support me? I actually had a couple of my stronger followers who were democratic socialists who understood I would not spend the money that they would want to spend, but they also knew I stood for the common man over the corporation. And that was a bigger priority for them, was being anti-big corporation than it was spending everybody's money. Okay, so there are bridges that can be built here by people who don't feel like they are being included at all within the current political system. that is what we're going to need to do to build this party. And we can do it without damaging our principles. One other thing I mentioned, and from talking to people within the GOP, one of their big concerns is they felt that their constitution was not always being followed, and they had nowhere else to go. They had no option of what to do about getting their constitution of the party enforced that was being steamrolled by a chair. So one of the things we are going to be establishing when we establish the party is a outside judicial committee, which will have a few members who are going to be here from the beginning. They're going to be aware of what our principles are, and when we vote for our principles, the principles that we're founding this party on, our bylaws can change, our platform can change, our principles cannot change. So when we're going to push these principles through and say these are the principles of our party, and once those are set, they're going to be set in stone. There's not going to be no changing them. And that judicial committee or that judicial committee is going to have the authority that if the party acts in a way or the chair acts in a way that violates those principles, they're going to be able to step in and overrule the chair. Okay, so that's one of these things we're trying to build into the party, and part of that is to protect the party. Okay, and prevent it from being taken over, like we talked about happens in a few other cases from third parties. So that's what's going on. Part of what's going on. One of the differences you're going to see between us and try to turn this. My phone's ringing. Let me try to turn it off here. Okay, here we go. One of the differences you're going to see is we're small. Okay, we're not big like the GOP. We're not big like the DFL right now. What that means is the people who are coming on board right now, I mean, when it comes time to vote for our bylaws, when it comes time to vote for all this, if you're going to be a member of the party at our convention, you're going to have voting rights. It's not going to be a delegate. Okay. You'll have to be a paying member of the party, and we're still working out those details. What I foresee is probably a $50 a year fee to become a member of the party for 1 year. We come up with that number because that's the number that the state will reimburse you for after we become a political party each year. The state will reimburse up to $50 that you donate to a state campaign or a state party every year. So that way, after we become a party, then you're basically paying for your membership for free or the state's paying for your membership every year. And then the other cost you're going to be looking at is the cost to get into the convention. That's going to depend a lot on the venue. How big of a venue do we need? What are we doing? Are we just sitting down and doing a quick convention from the floor? Are we doing a MIA? Are we having guest speakers for it? Those are all things that are going to have to be looked at. But for right now, I think we're going to have so much business to accomplish. I don't see us having a whole lot of frills, maybe a bunch of Subway sandwiches brought in for us to eat while we work. But because, again, that's what common people do. That's what everyday people do. We don't have these big catered meals that you'll see at some of these big conventions because, that's not who we are. But that's kind of where we're at right now. What questions do you guys have? I mean, I know I've got a few people out there, and we'll open the floor. I mean, we're learning together. Let me go ahead and tell you that, because this is the first time I've ever done something like this. But we found enough pissed off people that they want to change. They want something different. So, if you have any questions, let me see them. Otherwise, you're just going to hear me babble for a few more minutes while I try to wait for some questions. All right. Well, no questions so far, but let me go ahead and let's talk about what my vision is. Okay. And we get to talk about what my vision for this is because I'm basically the joker who's trying to put this all together. My vision is creating a party that's kind of what the GOP was originally meant to be. I mean, a small government, when you say conservative, part of that comes from a conservative reading of the Constitution. That's where that term comes from, compared to a liberal interpretation of the Constitution. Okay, conservative view of the Constitution means we don't read into it. What you have on paper, what you see, that's what it is. Okay, that's what we're trying to establish here. Okay, we are trying to return the power back to the people. Over the last X amount of years, I can't tell you how many years, corporations have gradually taken over our government. They've taken over our two political parties. Okay, so one of the big platforms for this party is going to be to pass a law that stipulates a corporation is a artificial entity that is not guaranteed rights under the Constitution. Why do we do that? Well, the reason we do that is that basically takes Citizens United and throw it right out the window. Because Citizens United basically came back and said, since we don't have any other guidance, we're going to have to assume that a corporation has the same rights as any other individual, because legally a corporation is an entity on itself. Okay, so we have to go in there and stipulate this is a artificial entity. Artificial entities are not granted the same protections under the Constitution. I would love to see the repeal of the 16th and 17th Amendments, Hobie. For those of you who don't know, 17th Amendment basically took your United States senators and made them elected by popular vote rather than being appointed by the states. Originally, they were appointed by the states, and the purpose of this was the House of Representatives was to represent the people. The Senate was more to represent the state's interests. And then your executive branch was to represent the interests of the federal government. Okay. So, but there was a balance there. Okay. And that balance has been lost. What is really the difference between, in my opinion, between the House and the Representatives and the Senate right now, Hubby? I don't really think there is much of a difference. I mean, the difference is one's there for, but again, because the original purpose of the Senate was lost with the 17th Amendment. Okay. Now, the one difference that there is, of course, is every state has equal representation within the Senate. Okay. So for the smaller, less populous states, that gives the two senators from that state the same power as two senators from California, although they represent vastly different numbers of people. I think that's part of what makes our system great, is because, again, it keeps the smaller people, the smaller states, from being overruled completely by the big states. It does involve some type of balance. But I really believe that those people should be appointed by the states and their state legislators, so they better represent those states and the people, because the people are already supposed to be represented by their House members, although we're often not. So yeah, I personally would love to see the 17th Amendment repealed, Hobie. Do I see it happening? Not really, because I mean, it's to the point now where the more heavily populated areas are not going to allow that, and to repeal it, you're going to need to get agreement from 3/5 of the states. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, I would love to see see that happen. But I don't see anybody on the left being willing to back that up, and unfortunately, there's not going to be the political willpower otherwise. Any next question? I hope I answered your question. Hope in the way you were looking for. All right. Well, I don't have any other questions on there, but guys, right now, that's what we're looking at. I mean, we're going to try to have these talks every so So he says, so no, a new party won't make a difference. I don't know about that, Hobie. I mean, a couple of reasons. One, what I'm hoping will happen is, I'm hoping, honestly, what I hope is GOP is replaced. The GOP has lost their way from what they were, and where they were supposed to be. Okay, and so have the Democrats. I mean, the Democrats at least the Democrats used to be able to say they were for the working man, but right now nobody's for the working man. Okay, I think the GOP right now is rotten to their core. I think it's all about power with them, and they've lost all aspect of what it means to actually represent the people. I did a little post a little while earlier talking about how absolute corruption corrupts absolutely. And I think that your perfect example of that is your leadership in the United States Congress and in the House and in the Senate. The power is consolidated to those leadership positions. If you're not in that leadership position, or your party's not in that leadership position, you have no power there. You don't even exist. They go and make their private deals with the White House, the leaderships between the two houses and them, and then they come back and tell the rank and file, this is how you're going to vote. And no, we're not even going to give you we're not even going to give you time to look over your over what we're asking you to vote for. You have to, as Pelosi said one time, well, you got to vote for it to see what's in it. That's bullshit. Okay, that's the kind of things that we want to be able to put on there and be able to put force to get this changed. Because until we do, and the only way it's going to happen is from outside the two parties, nothing's going to change. So I hope you asked about the Legal Marijuana Now party. How did a one-issue party get your name on the ballot? Well, part of the reason for that is the senatorial race in last year. A guy, last name is O'Connor. I can't remember his first name. He ran for Senate under the Legal Marijuana Now party. He took 6%, basically solidifying Legal Marijuana Now as a major party in Minnesota. Because they were that major party, there was no signature requirements to get onto the ballot. And because part of my platform was the legalization of marijuana, Legal Marijuana Now basically said, hey, your plank is the equivalent of our entire platform. We'd love to see a third option on that ballot. If you're willing to run under us, we'd love to have you. And so, yeah, we took them up on that opportunity. I really wish I would have done a better job of collecting signatures to get on there as an independent, because I think we would have done better as an independent. When I did my after action review and looked at all of the races across the country, independents as a whole did better than the majority of the third parties. But yeah, for legal marijuana as a single issue, enough people cared about that single issue that they were able to gain their 5%. Now, with the chances of marijuana getting legalized over these next 2 years, what's going to happen to the Legal Marijuana Now party? Where are their voters going to go? Their intention is to continue to function and to work towards other issues within marijuana, but I think they're going to lose the fire of most of their voters whose main priority was legalization. Once they have that legalization, I just don't think they're going to have quite the pull that they did before. And I think we saw this last election. I mean, I was by far the best performing candidate for legalized marijuana now in Minnesota. Nebraska had another candidate who I think did 1 or 2 points better than me, didn't quite get as many votes, but yeah, like Milk Toast Party. But I mean, I forgot, I completely lost my train of thought there. You can tell I'm not a professional politician. And how is independent a party? Independent is not a party. It's independent of party. There is a independence party, but independent basically means you're independent of party, meaning you're not under anybody else's rules, which is when I was running, which was actually something I wanted to be able to get out there and say, hey, you know what? There are no strings on me. And part of the deal was with the Legal Marijuana Now Party was that, yes, I would run under them and I would do everything I could to legalize marijuana. But other than that, my votes and my policies were my own. And again, because their only plank is their entire platform of legalization, they're like, yeah, go for it. I mean, so it was a good fit for me at the time by allowing me to get on there and still claim to be independent, even though I was running under a party. So, and that's one of the things we're going to have to talk about when we have our convention. I mean, how thick is or how strong is our platform going to be? Should we start a dependent party, followed the IRS? Well, on that, not called the dependent party, but we actually have already filed at the IRS for our paperwork we need to file with them to be a political party, which I know that's probably not what you're talking about, but I'm glad you mentioned it because I forgot to mention it earlier. So yeah, if we want we have to decide what our guiding principles are going to be, but we're going to have to give our candidates a certain amount of independence outside of those so they can represent the people in their district, because every district's going to be same. I mean, we need to be able to say, you know what, this is what we stand for. But you know what, if it's not one of these big issues we have listed, and we don't have to have a position on every little rinky-dink issue. We have to say what's important to us. Okay, shrinking government, that's what's important to us. A strong national defense at home, that's what's important to us. Okay. Reducing regulation so that small businesses can excel, can prosper. That's what's important to us. And then leave a lot of the other things out to the candidates to work with their constituents to say what works best for us. Where do you stand? Allow them to represent their people without trying to tie their hands down on everything. Okay. So when we work on this platform, I'm hoping for a relatively small platform, but a platform large enough to people to say, this is where they stand. This is what their principles are. Small government, leave you alone, and talk softly, but carry a big ass stick. Okay. That's my view of where I would like this party's principles to be. But again, as we put this together, it's not about me. Okay. And that's what the other thing I wanted to drive home with this is right now I'm driving the bus, and to a certain extent, I'm the doctor who's trying to deliver the baby. But once that baby is born, that doctor is no longer responsible. It's up to the parents. And for a certain extent, everybody who comes in on this ride with us are the parents. They're the ones responsible as much as I am. Okay. I don't want this to be about me. And that was one of the reasons when we were talking about what kind of animal do we want for our mascot, it was like, no, we don't want a bull. Why? Because that's about me, and that's not what this is about. Okay. We want something that stands up on its own. Okay. That's something today's politicians have completely forgot. It's not about them. Okay. It's about everybody who we represent. And not one party remembers it's about representing the people anymore. It's about representing the party. So yeah, I want to keep that as a very, very small, tight shot group to what our principles are. And which basically means follow the Constitution, follow the Declaration of Independence. And that's going to create its own problems, honestly, folks. I mean, because you're going to take issues, and I'm going to go ahead and bring it up. We're going to take issues like abortion. Where does the party stand on abortion? My view is the party shouldn't. My view is the Declaration of Independence says it's to protect the life, liberty, and God, I'm having a complete brain fart here. But what it doesn't say is, where does that life begin? And everybody's got to have a different view of that. Okay, if we want to represent all the people, we have to be able to give our politicians, our candidates, room to be able to represent the people of their district. And say, if the people in their district thinks it's from conception, they're from a very conservative area, well, then they should be able to go up there and say, hey, abortion should be illegal from conception. But at the same time, if they're in a more moderate area who said, no, I mean, this should be allowed under cases of rape or incest or until there's a heartbeat, well, guess what? They should have the freedom to be able to make that change, or make that without the party coming back and saying, you have to stick this way. That was part of what killed us for governor, is Jensen got locked into that on something that on the state level he really wasn't going to have a say in, because it's enshrined in the Constitution. Pat wants me to talk about eminent domain. Eminent domain is one of those tricky subjects, in the fact that we're here and we're saying we are believing in the Constitution. We are believing in enforcing the Constitution as it is written in a conservative view. The Constitution allows for eminent domain. It specifically permits the government to take land as long as they're reimbursed a fair amount for public use. It's that public use sports that's been perverted over the years. There is no definition of what is public use. The original framers were probably thinking public use such as for a postal road, for a town hall, for a military base. Okay. What has changed is now it's, that's a bad area of town. We really need to go ahead and make that into a nicer area. Let's condemn everything there, throw everybody else out, and build a shopping center, because that's better for the overall public compared to a ghetto. So we're going to take all these people out, throw them out, and that's what has become part of what public use. Public use or eminent domain is taking people's land so they can put a pipeline in it that's going to benefit a private foreign company. Okay, that's what eminent domain has changed to. I would love to be able to, if I have a party position of eminent domain, basically for us would be defining what is public use. Public use means road, transportation, public building, but in no way means something that would benefit a private corporation. Would in no means be something to help a business, or we're going to take this because we want a Walmart, or we're going to take this property because we want a Walmart, and we're going to let them move in here tax free, but we're going to take your land from you, and you are paying taxes because we want Walmart here. And that's what's happened across the country. So yeah, that's a little bit on my view on eminent domain. But again, when we start putting all this together, it's going to be up to everybody to come forth. I mean, we're gonna put together a draft proposition, but when it comes to convention, it's going to be up to everybody to kind of decide, hey, do we want this? Do we want to adjust this? Do we want to adapt this? And guys, I'm telling you, the convention, it's going to be a long day or two, because when you start going over each of these planks in a platform and every bylaw, somebody's going to have something to say on every one of them, and it's gonna take some a lot of negotiating, because again, I want everybody to have an option to amend something if they don't like it and have it put up to a vote on that amendment. That takes time, but that's the way that's the way Congress is supposed to work, but it doesn't. They haven't allowed amendments from the floor in years in Congress, and that used to be the way it functioned every day. But, all right, any next question or any more questions? Hey guys, I mean, I think we got a lot of potential. I agree, Jeremy. The initial struggles will be worth it in the end, but damn it, it's going to be some hard work and some late nights over the next few months as we try to rush this through. Because one of the other things I really like to do in April, and I mentioned this earlier, is I'm hoping to have our Senate candidate identified by April and put in front of the convention to decide whether they're willing to nominate or endorse that candidate. That's a year earlier than is normally done with the other parties. But the reason we're doing this is, again, we want to get to our 5%. We need that candidate to be able to go out and start campaigning as soon as possible. Start building up that support now, okay, rather than waiting for the last minute. And then, because again, it's a big state. We need to love to give them 2 full summers of parades and everything else to be able to go out and spread the word. I will go ahead and address this, although it has not come up yet. I do not intend to be the candidate for Senate. Okay. I really would like to get somebody else in with where I'm at in the state up in the northwest corner. It's really not feasible for me to run for Senate because, again, you have so much traveling to do. It's just going to take a lot. Whoever we pick to run is going to have to spend a lot of time in the cities. And I personally am not in a position to be able to afford that. Okay. This last election, just around this area, cost me 20 grand out of my pocket. And it would be more than that to run across for the Senate. So I am not interested in running in that senatorial position. Depending on the candidate we do have, I am considering running for Congress again in this seat as within our new party. I feel that'd be a nice way to represent it. But I did want to put that out there that no, I was not intending on running in that position. So any other questions before we sign out? Again, we're going to try to have these every Tuesday night just to kind of update, let people know where we are. If we get people who are interested in potentially running for Senate or any position, really, I'd love to be able to get them on here and have them tell you what their thoughts are and their feelings are, and give them a chance to speak to the members of the party. We have found somebody who's going to help us put our website together. We're hoping to get it up within the next week or so, because then we're going to start being able to have people sign up. Again, we're going to work with the bank probably tomorrow and get our bank account set up. So we probably will have an opportunity for somebody to donate to the party through PayPal quickly as we get everything set up through the website. So any final questions before I call it a night? I want to thank everybody who showed up and asked some questions. Again, guys, I want this to be about all of us, and I can't do that without your input. So please continue to input here. Continue to input on the Facebook page. We are going to be looking at somebody to help do social media management, which would be, again, a little bit different for me, because when I ran for Congress, I was very big on having a tight control over everything that happened on my page. But on the party page, I mean, it's kind of up to us. It's not up to me anymore. So it's not going to be my voice that has to maintain everything. And sometimes on a party page, you can be a little bit more edgy and a little bit more thought-provoking. I just don't want to get to the point of where the Libertarian Party is right now, where they piss somebody off with every post. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Have a great night. And let me know any questions. Thank you all for tuning in.